Chapter 13. While we kept a lookout for any more traps, we soon relaxed because it felt so good to be outside again. The summer had been dry, so the plants sucked up all the moisture they could from the early November rains, and extra water sat in a thin layer on top of the soaked dirt. The heavy rains had cooled the air some, and I took big gulps of it as I ran. I wanted to run faster today than ever. Maybe I could outrun my thoughts. My heart thumped hard as my feet pounded into the muddy ground, and my arms pumped. At least tomorrow was Friday. Then I'd have the whole weekend to fix my feelings before I had to go back to school and all the kids there. A chilly breeze blew up, and I breathed it deep as it flowed over me, letting it power me on to follow Jay's lead through the marsh. After a storm, we always went down to the marsh because the rains dredged up all kinds of weird stuff. Maybe I'd find something today that would take my mind off school. Some of our best prizes were a baseball cap, a beat-up weather vane shaped like a chicken, and a beautiful feather that looked like it might have come from a peacock. "You find anything?" I yelled across to Jay. "Not yet." He high-stepped through the pluff mud, the hem of his pants rolled up to his knees, fishing for treasures. Jay could stay outside all day if he was able, searching the marsh's secrets. Only nighttime, and his empty belly, could pull him from a treasure hunt like this. I skirted along the grassy bank, watching the water bubble between the stalks of grass, a sure sign that the fiddler crabs were scrabbling around just out of sight. The memory of the thing in the marsh holding me there to listen flooded my mind like a high tide. Being held in place was so terrifying, but I had Jay with me then. I looked up and out across the marsh, but I didn't see him anywhere. Of course he'd wandered off. This was the first time in weeks when he was actually home after school, and we were out together in the marsh like we used to be, and he was nowhere in sight. Mama and Doc had told us both to not leave the other alone, but I was alone. I was always alone, it seemed, these days. "Lonely girl, I am here." The voice echoed around me, and I spun searching for where it came from. No one was nearby. "Lonely girl." I listened as the whispery, light voice echoed. I couldn't tell if it was in my head or on the air. "I am alone, too. I, too, have no one." A flash of something caught my eye, and I looked right to an area where the thick rushes of the marsh, where a tidal pool of water had gathered. There was something out there in the murky water, a glimpse of red that sank away as soon as I saw it. Moments later, it surfaced again before sinking out of sight. "I see something," I yelled in case Jay was somewhere close enough to hear me. I didn't wait for him to answer, though. I just went on over to look. Around me, the blowing wind grew cooler, too cool for this time of year, and all I could see was the thing in front of me bobbing on the surface of the water, white, then red, then orange-brown before it disappeared for the briefest moment. "I'm so empty, lonely girl. Are you empty like me?" I should have been scared then, and I was, but that wasn't all I felt. I could feel the desperation all around me, hear it in the voice. It felt so true and so real. It felt like my loneliness, new and painfully fresh. Something moved against me, and I found it was Dinah squirming in my pocket. I pulled her out. Whether she was worried about me or encouraged me, I couldn't tell. I put her back in my pocket and gave her a pat. As I got closer, the spot under the surface started to look like different things. A towel, maybe a scrap of a shirt or a dress. Then I got close enough to see what it was. Of all the things we'd found in this marsh, there was one thing we'd never seen: a body. I was afraid for a moment that we'd finally found one, but then I realized exactly what I was looking at. It was a doll. The doll was nothing like Dinah. This one looked like someone had tried to carve a real person out of wood. A shock went through my body, starting at my head like a lightning strike, then moving down into my legs, freezing them to the spot. I wanted to get a closer look at it, but it was in deeper water, a few feet out from where I stood. I searched around for a branch or something to use and came up empty. "Jay," I called again, my voice ringing out over the stillness. "Got something here." Dinah was going crazy now. It felt like she was pushing against the pocket with all of her tiny body. I didn't know what her problem was with some old doll, but I'd find out after I figured out a way to haul it in. Surely another step would be okay, especially if I kept the marsh's edge in sight. I stepped into the water, and the mud smooshed under my feet. The water, cooler than the air, made me shiver, but it only came halfway up my calf. The doll looked so much smaller now that I was almost on top of it, as though I could pick it up in one hand. The fingers waggled, barely scraping the muddy fabric of the strange doll's belly. Then my hand sank inside it. My gasp was cut off quick as I was yanked forward into the tidal pool of standing marsh water. My knees hit the mud at the bottom of the marsh, splashing through the standing water left by the floods and the last hard rain. Then something strong, fiercely strong, gripped my right arm, still sunk inside the belly of the doll. It crawled up to my shoulder, adjusted the grip, then pulled harder. I screamed out, "Jay, Doc, help me!" My voice was swallowed by a roar of air from the doll. Dinah thrashed around, the tug of her flailing keeping me off balance. I couldn't get free of the thing that had me, and I couldn't get to her. She was in my right pocket, and I was using my left arm to brace myself as I was pulled closer and closer to the surface of the water. I pulled back with all my strength, but whatever had my arm was stronger. I reached for the protection powder I'd made with Doc's graveyard dirt and powdered brick. Maybe if I sprinkled it on the water, I could get free, but then I remembered I'd taken the bag out of my pocket and left it in the windowsill to dry, along with my bracelet of devil's shoestrings. Doc had told me never to go without protection, and I had done just that. I tugged harder, screaming until my voice cracked and my throat was raw and sore. The puddle of water churned now, and I saw glimpses through its cloudy surface. The smell of the marsh surrounded me. Usually I loved the scent of it, rich with bubbling life, but there was something in it now that smelled burnt and bitter. I could taste it on my tongue. Whatever it was drew my head closer to the pool. I writhed and punched the water, but nothing I did made any difference. "No, no, no, no," I cried out. My heart was in my throat. I felt like I was choking on my fear. Cold water covered my lips and nose. Dinah was scratching against the inside of my pocket, but all the sounds around me were drowned out by the voice pounding into my head, the one coming from the doll. "Got you." And then laughter. Hard, cruel laughter, just like the kids at school. My body tightened up, and I flailed around trying to get loose. I can't die like this. I can't leave Mama and Jay and Doc. I had to get away from that voice that sounded like creaking floors and smelled like used oil. Where was Jay now? I don't care about the boy, but a girl? I can use a girl. A lonely, scared little girl. I screamed again, and my mouth filled with muddy water. I jerked away enough to lift my lips clear of the water and spit out the thick liquid, and that movement pressed my tummy forward into the puddle. I was soaked in an instant. The water was so cold, and the shock of it raced through me. "Yes, you're my poppet now, my little doll. I'm going to fill you up." Dinah wiggled frantic against me, pounding her gunny sack body into my side. I kicked my legs trying to get up, but my feet kept slipping in the mud, and I couldn't get enough of a grip or a foothold to move away. Full of pretty pins. Something sharp poked, then pierced my side. It felt like a branch sank into my skin, then through the muscle layer by layer. I gasped at the pain, but when I looked around, then down at my body, there was nothing. No branch, no pin, only the dirty, heaving water. I tried to settle myself, breathe deep, and think as Doc told us. What could I do? Another stick, this one needle sharp, entered my hip. When I hollered, the thing clutching my arm yanked hard. My left elbow gave way, and I crashed face first into the icy cold water. Eyes open, I saw a face in the water, smeared and wobbly. What I could see clearly were the teeth, white and large and sharp, exposed in a sneer. The grip felt like bony skeleton fingers. I couldn't breathe. I needed air, and another sharp needle worked its way into my shoulder, bumping off the bone, then moving off to find softer muscle. Bucking and struggling, I knew it would make me run out of air even faster. My lessons flashed in my head like fireworks. Doc had told me that I had to bring my calmest self to the magic. It was okay to be eager and excited, but the negative emotions like fear and anger were not good when working root. "Bad draws bad, Jess," he said. "Try to let those bad thoughts go." Anything that would steal power, surely it was evil. I didn't want to make evil stronger, but how could I keep that from happening? I ceased moving. I focused and let my body go still. I felt the pain, but it seemed far away now, like I'd closed a window between it and me. My mind raced around, trying to work out this puzzle. Think, Jezebel. Mama and Doc had both said root work takes intent. Even Mama knew that, and she didn't work root. That's your power. Don't let anyone take it from you. Miss Corey's advice came to me now. The words echoed in my mind, weaving in and out around the doll's triumphant laughter. I knew I didn't have the strength to get my body loose from this grip, but maybe that wasn't the only way to get free. At that moment, my body felt light, lighter than the water surrounding it, like a balloon lifting into the sky. I let that floaty feeling move into every part of me, my arm and legs, my belly, blotting out the pain as another pin slid inside my skin. It filled me up, then I felt a part of me break away, up away from my body in the marsh pool, separating itself from the grip, keeping me in the pool of water. "No, get back here." The grip yanked at my arm, the voice shrieking in anger, but I was free of my body, Floating above it, I looked down and saw me, a brown girl in a blue dress, surrounded by green-gray water. I wanted to stay like this, apart from everything. Safe. There was no pain here, as there was down in that pool. You can't have me, I gasped. My breath was coming in pants like a dog's that had run too fast and too long. My heartbeat was fluttering, making me think of trapped butterflies, but did I even have a heartbeat right now? It was down there in my body. I knew in that moment my power wasn't only in my body. It was deeper, embedded into my spirit. Separate, I could feel the source of the wind. In the air, I could feel that big salt where it kissed the beach. And even deeper inside, I could feel a part of Gran with me, and not just her. I felt surrounded by warm, loving people, my people who had been on this land even before Gran was born. I could hear their voices in English and in Gullah. They were inside my head and my heart. We bin ya, girl. We're with you now. A gentle breeze surrounded me, and I felt its pressure only, not its temperature. I knew I was connected to everything around me, as if I could push a button and make something happen. When that thought flowed out of me, a flock of ducks rose up from the water, taking to the air with furious honks and squawks. Their wings created a small windstorm that rippled the surface of the water. Over there, a voice cried. Then I saw the marsh grass part, and two other brown bodies trampled through the grasses and mud. Jay was in front, running up to the tidal pool, with Doc close behind, holding a big jar close to his chest. Doc pointed and mouthed something I couldn't hear. Then he gave the jar to Jay. I recognized it as the one from his cabin that was filled with that dirty, muddy liquid. Jay poured the contents of the jug into the water while Doc yanked me free by my ankles. I didn't know if Doc or Jay could hear it, but a screech somewhere between a person's scream and a bird's cry filled the air around me. The water blackened and rose up in hurricane waves. Then, just as suddenly, it froze in place before dropping back down and lying still. Doc shook my body as he held me upside down while Jay thumped me on the back. I dropped like a stone back into my body as a river poured out of my mouth. I coughed, and Doc laid me on the ground. I blinked the grit out of my eyes. They waited until I could talk. When finally I could, I told them of the body that was a doll and the teeth in the water. Jay touched my shoulder, and I flinched away. Look, he said, holding up his hand. I stared at it, then looked at my own, stained reddish-brown. I saw my dress poked through with holes, all rimmed with rusty-looking blood. His face, when I looked back, was drenched in fear. But for some reason, I didn't feel scared about what had just happened. I felt strong, like I had conquered something. A smile started to form on my face, but it stopped when I saw Jay's look of worry mirrored on my uncle's face. Are you going to tell Mama about this? I asked. No, Doc said. You are.